Hello and welcome to the DJ Force 10 in Conversation podcast. My very special guest on today's show is founding member and bass player from the band Pitchshifter. They're currently supporting a 20th anniversary release of Everything's Fucked, which is available now on their Bandcamp, so go check it out. They released the single 20 years ago this year, and they've re-released it with some friends on it this year as well, so do check that out. It's got my boys in Seething and Kira on there, Tony Campos from Static X, Misery Loves Company, and a whole bunch of others, so please go check that out. And yeah, it's on their Bandcamp site, so go check that out. Also, Mark is currently supporting a charity. I just want to give that a shout out because I think it's an absolute amazing thing. It's called Last Night a DJ Saved My Life. Okay, Bristol, and it's on Crowdfunder, which is crowdfunder.co.uk, and just type in Last Night a DJ Saved My Life Bristol, and it will bring up his donations page. And basically what it is, it's raising money to buy portable hand-wound radios to give to the homeless and those who are in isolation or sheltering, or any of the people generally that don't have much in the way of family around them or friends. And it's just a great way of giving people up-to-date news and stuff. That's what we talk about in the podcast a bit towards the end about it, but I think it's an absolute fantastic cause, and I implore you to please go donate whatever you can to that. And yeah, he's currently getting radios done now, and he's got a whole bunch of them going out, so yeah. And also Pitchshifter, they've got a tour next year. They've announced at the end of next year, sort of week-long run of dates. Got London, Wolverhampton, Nottingham in there. I'm actually going to be going to the Nottingham show, so if anyone ends up going there, if you see me, you know what I look like, come say hi. It's about a year and a half away, but don't worry about that, it's all good. But yeah, apart from that, couple of things have been great over the last week with the reaction from the Head PE, and yeah, just a lot of people downloading it and all that kind of good stuff, and absolutely loving interviewing these bands that I followed when I was younger, and like with Pitchshifter and with a future podcast with Earth Tone 9, I was actually a member of their street team, which back in the day was the way, well, one way promotion was done. It's not so much done these days because not a lot of people go out. Well, I say that a lot of people do go out, you can see that at the moment, but yeah, generally I was a street teamer, which meant sort of it's a bit like flyering, so there was flyers involved, but there's also stickers, CDs, cassette tapes, all that kind of stuff. And actually getting to speak to these guys is absolutely amazing, and sort of taking them back to that time and era when they were sort of supporting pitchshifter.com, which was kind of like a breakthrough album for them, and beyond that as well. I mean, I had Jim Davies on the show, so we talked about it a little bit on there. I've also got Mark on it today. I've got Carl from Earth Tone 9 in September, and I'm currently lining up a couple more from that era. Obviously I had Head PE as well and Static X, so sort of going back to that sort of like, I'd say prime new metal era, I guess, is the area I'm looking at, because that was my sort of like late teens and early 20s where music kind of hits you right in the sweet spot. But yeah, apart from that, I just want to give a shout out to everyone that's been downloading, like I already said, and listening, and I hope you guys are enjoying these shows. And yeah, without much further ado, this is Mark from Pitchshifter. Enjoy. I'd like to welcome Mark to the show today. He is the bassist and founding member of Pitchshifter. Welcome, Mark.
Hi, thank you very much for having me on the show. How you doing?
I'm good, man. I'm good. Like I said, it's absolutely my pleasure beforehand, and I'm going to say it now, to have you guys on the show. As I mentioned as well, I've been a fan of Pitchshifter for a very long time. I want to take you back to my origins, and I'm going to ask you about yours as well. Basically, I think the first show I saw you guys was, I want to say it was at the Astoria, and I think you were supporting someone like Neurosis or Entombed.
Sounds about right, yeah.
Sounds about right. It was kind of like infotainment days.
Yeah.
I think it was around then, just before .com, that cycle of .com.
Okay.
And then, yeah, so you got, and then you played the Agincourt in Camberley. just before .com came out, I think.
Yes.
And you were supported by Bully Rag and a band called Floor, which went on to be 100 Reasons.
Yes.
I know these minute details. So, but no,
Okay.
That show totally. I mean, the show before blew me away because I love that kind of like dark industrial tribal sound. So that whole gig was kind of my thing. But I also love electronic music.
Okay.
So when I saw you guys at the Agincourt, you
Yes.
totally blew me away. Just like having that kind of fusion of kind of big room electronics rather than the sort of like dark industrial stuff that you kind of had. That was kind of your thing before.
Yes.
But you kind of made that transition to the sort of like, I call it big room, because it's more sort of like, it's cleaner.
Okay, yeah.
If that makes sense to you, I don't know.
Yeah, no, it does, yeah.
It's DJ language for me.
Okay.
But yeah.
Well, yeah.
Sorry. And then since then, I saw you guys at the Astoria with 1 Minute Silence. I saw you at the Astoria pretty much every year when you did like the Kerrang shows and all that kind of stuff.
Yes.
And then I saw you in Nottingham a year and a half ago.
How was it?
That was it was brilliant. I loved it. It was a real sort of shot back in time for me because you had Earth Tone 9 and the Blueprint on there as well.
That's right.
So
yes.
it's a proper shot back. I just had Carl on the show actually as well.
Fantastic.
We've got a podcast
Great.
coming out next month, in fact, for that, the 20th anniversary of Arctangent. So.
Yes.
But yeah, no, we saw that show, and I brought my my stepdaughter along, and you have a new fan in the shape of my stepdaughter.
Excellent.
And my wife was already a fan as well, so it was all good. And I've actually got tickets for your next tour as well.
Amazing. Well, thank you very much.
No worries. I'm going to come up to Nottingham again. So obviously, if shit goes
yes,
ahead.
I'll make sure we won't disappoint. It's going to be a great show at Nottingham.
I was going to say, you guys have never disappointed me, to be fair. I mean, the Astoria, it's one of my favourite venues I've ever been to.
Yes.
I'm fortunate enough not to play it, unfortunately. I'd really love to at some point, but obviously it's gone now.
Yes.
But no, those sort of gigs, that was when I was a bit more active in the crowd below rather than the crowd above.
Okay. Yeah.
You know, when age hits you and children start going in the pit.
Yeah, of course.
But no, I mean, there's just some of my fondest memories of going to those shows, and it was you guys, 1 Minute Silence, because I was a street team for a lot of you as well.
Yes.
Yeah, like Earth Tone 9 and stuff like that, Mudvayne, all that kind of ilk. Back then,
cool.
I was more active in the sort of like, I'd say, publicity side of being a street teamer and handing out CDs, cassettes, talking to people about you guys and all that kind of stuff. So
great. Well, thank you very much. That's cool.
No worries. It's quite the intro. This is probably one of the longest ones I've done.
That's fine.
It's all good. But yeah, no, what I was going to do is bring up to sort of like today. I want to talk about .com because I missed that opportunity a couple of years ago.
Okay.
Because like I said, that album kind of really, really spoke to me because like I said, I'm a DJ and electronic music's a passion of mine, and also punk and metal is a passion of mine as well. And it was that full-on fusion that I hadn't heard in that style, really. There was a few bands in and out that I kind of got it from that sort of didn't last very long.
Yeah.
But you guys really brought it to the forefront. So what I want to do, actually, let's just talk .com first.
Okay, no worries.
Taking you back to that sort of time, because obviously you made a shift. I mean, between I've got like your really early albums like Industrial and Submit and things like that.
Yeah.
And it's quite a change. I mean, infotainment is a kind of bridge for it, I feel.
Yes. Yeah, exactly.
But was that the kind of like roadmap you guys wanted to take at the time?
We hadn't planned to. I think what happened was we just wanted to be, when we first started, we just wanted to be as brutal as possible.
Yeah.
And, you know, we made sure that the live shows reflected that as well. So this was at the time when we would, you know, play videos of mass animal slaughter and all sorts of horrific things on TV screens. And we would then beat the screens up with baseball bats and smash everything to pieces at the end, etc., and just be as heavy as possible. And I think we sort of realised after a few years, we sort of sat down and thought we wouldn't feel happy keeping on doing that, and effectively we felt that if we did, we'd just be releasing the same album every year, and we personally we wouldn't have been happy with that, and we didn't feel that was something we wanted to do for the fan base either, because we felt that we could see that, you know, people don't just like one style of music. Obviously this is a long time ago, obviously you were there, so you can remember. So it was right at the sort of dawn of people saying, hey, it's okay to like lots of different styles of music, it's fine, it's cool, and check out all these styles. And and when things happened, like drum and bass blew up, first of all it started in the underground, obviously, as things always do before they're successful. We really just sort of like tuned into it and thought, wouldn't it be great to just take some of that and put it into what we're doing? It might sound insane and we don't really know what the end result will be or how people will react to it, but we thought we'd do it anyway. So the infotainment was kind of the move towards the change, because we felt that if we literally went from desensitized straight to .com, probably would have been too much, I think, for people to go, hang on, what? People probably would have thought it was a different band and it would have been too confusing. Yeah. So we kind of, infotainment was definitely a stepping stone. And we, in terms of where we were creatively when we were writing .com, we were under no pressure whatsoever from any label to write a record. At that point, we weren't sure if we were going to continue or not. We had a few label issues, which we won't talk about because it's boring in the past.
That's fine. I think it's been well documented.
But we sort of thought, well, if we do make a record again, it should be something we really want to do. It should push a lot of boundaries, and we want to challenge ourselves and we want to challenge people who listen to it as well. So that was the thinking behind us sort of disappearing into a room and just getting on with it for a period of time. And I think when we came out of the other side, it was a strange time initially because people didn't know how to categorize what it was. So we had a lot of interviews where people were saying we don't know what to call it, and we said, well, why don't you just call it uneasy listening, or we'd make a joke out of it. And then we found that a lot of festivals we'd just get put on with Atari Teenage Riot, and that was a band that we got put on every single festival with for a couple of years. So we got to know those guys really well, which is great to play together. And obviously all the heavier bands are playing around us, so we still had our sort of roots and friendships with Neurosis and lots of the heavier bands like Obituary and all those guys. But it's kind of, that experimental time was fun for us, and it kind of opened a lot of doors as well. And we sort of catch, the phrase that we used at that point was, we've done lots of time in the underground, and now we're just going to go overground, see what happens. And that was kind of the plan for .com, and that's kind of probably as far as we got in our heads. And then obviously we then went out and toured for 2.5 years straight when the record came out. So that was quite a shock for us, even though we were used to touring. Touring solidly for 2.5 years was obviously, quite a testing time for everyone. It was cool. It was fine. It was good. Don't get me wrong. Nothing bad happened, but just to literally say, okay, well, let's just get on the bus now. Here we go. We'll be back in 2.5 years' time. See ya. Was pretty crazy.
Yes. Yeah. No, that is insane thinking about it. Like, being in a music band myself and stuff, and like having that maybe put ahead of me, I would have maybe given it, I don't know if I've given it a second thought or not, but it's just one of those situations where I guess, you had a major label behind you for it as well. So,
yes. Yeah, definitely.
Was there pressure post that then for it? I know obviously you said like you didn't have any pressure writing it or putting anything together, but once like you had Geffen involved, did that change?
Not really. I think we probably felt some obligation that we should probably, put our heads down and get on with making the next record. Which we kind of did with Deviant, so I think we worked pretty hard on that one. And then kind of it was when Deviant was released, we switched from Geffen, we were put onto MCA. MCA said, what do you want to do? And we said, the Ozfest. So they chucked us on the Ozfest for 3 months, in which we played all of America across 3 months, which is probably one of the mental craziest times that we've ever had, which is saying a lot. That we've toured for 25 years, but I think that's probably one of the craziest years. And that was with getting to know and playing with Incubus, Queens of the Stone Age, all the bands that were on the tour that year. It was just incredible. It was just totally life-changing moment. And I think we felt at that point, we've worked so hard to get here, we're just going to let our hair down a bit. So we probably should have written a lot more music on the Ozfest after we'd released Deviant than we did. But we thought, we're just going to party for a while, and we're just going to play live and do what we do live because people enjoy it, and so do we. So we didn't sort of knuckle down and sort of we didn't knuckle down, to write the next record. But I don't think there's any regrets there. It's just a sort of decision we made at the time.
Yeah, no, it's that kind of thing, playing a festival like that constantly through the States, especially if you've you get to obviously travel a lot of it. You get to explore some of it as well. Sitting down or bunking down in your bus and writing music isn't like the forefront of your mind at the same time. You're in these crazy part of the countries, and it's like you go into the rural states side of things, and everything changes. It becomes a very different country.
Definitely,
away from the city. So
completely, and obviously in America, a lot of the states are different. It's almost, they feel like different countries almost, some of the states, but, when you compare them to each other. And also, if you think, the land mass of the UK would fit into America 50 times at least. One of the drives alone was 1,000 miles, so just stuff like that. It's just crazy, but great fun.
Yeah. No, I lived in the States for a period of time, so I sort of have that experience in me as well, which is kind of nice. But yeah, you're right. Everywhere's like kind of like, you can drive there, but it is a couple hundred miles.
Yes,
if you want to get there. Yeah. But no, it was a cool time. But no, that's amazing. I mean, like thinking back to then, like there obviously, like I mentioned before, it was you guys. There was 1 Minute Silence. Like the sort of younger bands of that time.
Yes.
As in to the public eye. I know you guys were around a little bit before that. But yeah, just like coming up to sort of like. Towards, like, I know you mentioned Deviant and PSI as well.
Yes.
So when you got to writing around sort of like the PSI era, what was sort of going on at that point?
Well, first of all, we knew we wanted to make something heavy again as we were writing PSI. So the sort of the first thing that came up was that we'd moved to drop tuning to make it heavier than the previous records. And a lot of the PSI record was written with Jim and John, so they kind of lived together while they were writing that record.
Yeah.
This was in our base of Nottingham, where we lived for, decades we were in Nottingham for. Yeah. But it was kind of, we just wanted to do a heavy record to see how it was received. We weren't sure how much longer we wanted to do the band for. As you say, life takes people in different directions at all different points. I think obviously the turning point for us was the PSI record, sort of thinking, we'll do this, we'll tour it, and we'll see how it goes. And, mainly as well, we'd see how we felt about it and where everybody wanted to go, where we were heading. Yeah. Because it's kind of being in a band yourself, the band never live in the same place. And as soon as you've got people on different time zones, things become difficult. And, it's kind of, it was a world away basically from when we first started back in sort of 1990, in those first few years when we literally were a unit, and we did everything together. And that would be, eating, breathing, sleeping, touring, getting in the van, writing songs, doing the 2 Peel sessions that we did. Everything we kind of did back then in the early 90s was kind of like solidified the band, certainly myself and my brother. Yeah. It was a very different animal. That if we time travel forward to, the PSI record, we're all great friends and really close to each other, and we still are, which is fantastic. But I think we just come to that sort of period where we thought, let's write it, record it, put it out, tour it, and then sort of see what we want to do in the future.
Yeah. No, that's fair enough. I mean, I had Jim on the show actually.
Oh, fantastic!
When was that? It was it was during lockdown when he released his album. In fact,
yes,
Head Wars.
I played on it. Yeah.
Yes, I was about to ask you about that. Because it's kind of nice little like that sort of era Pitchshifter reunion, which was kind of nice. So. But yeah, no. So I got to the point, like, see, like you released that sort of, I think it was like the final show EP, as well, the Numb for All and All for One. I got a copy of that, which is cool.
Cool.
In fact, I've got your entire discography. I've got even got some on vinyl, which is kind of cool as well. So
that's very cool.
But yeah, no, just like at that point, obviously, I was quite sad that you guys were sort of calling it a day for that, or going into hiatus, I think the term was at the time.
Yes.
But yeah, no, I mean, like during that time off, like obviously I sort of became a bit more aware of what you guys were doing, sort of like on the back end, like you had like movie soundtrack, like tracks on movies and adverts and stuff. You like doing sync, I think they call it.
That's right.
Tracks for sync and stuff. So like during that sort of like off time, I know you were kind of busy with the Blueprint.
Yeah.
You did This Is Menace as well.
That's right.
What about like the other guys and stuff in the band? Because I think obviously John.
Well, yeah, John was in America by that point, so he'd moved to Los Angeles. So he started another band called Doheny, which is sort of more rock than Pitchshifter. So, traditional sort of 5-piece, 2 guitars, drums, bass, vocals. So he'd done that. Jason, at the time, was sort of drumming for various bands. So Jason he's drummed, in the past, building up to now being in Bullet for My Valentine. He was drumming for Pot Will Eat Itself, Fight Star, Killing Joke. He was out with a lot of bands, basically. So if drummers needed cover, for personal reasons, if they had family, stuff that they needed to be around for family for, then he'd always cover. So he was doing a lot of tours by that point. And then obviously Bullet came along. This was a long time ago, and he sort of said, fair enough, I'll commit to Bullet. And now that's full time for him, which he's loving. And so John was obviously doing the Doheny stuff, and Jim was continually writing. So I'm sure Jim's talked about it, but he does a lot of music for soundtracks, films, TV, movies, all that sort of stuff. So he's built up an incredibly huge library of stuff. And in terms of sort of guitarists moving forward, 'cause obviously we had a sort of changing in guitarists around that time. So we've got Dan Rayner and Tim Rayner. Now they were both writing for Sync as well, so they were writing a lot of music with their band, which was called Drawbacks. And they've had a lot of stuff as well in terms of Sync. So they've written, a lot of placement music for TV, film, adverts, that sort of stuff. And now, do you want me to bring you up to kind of now? Or are we doing it period by period?
No, we'll go up to now.
Bring it up to now. Obviously, John is doing Pitchshifter musically. Jim is still doing lots of his soundtrack stuff, so he's literally got archives and libraries of stuff, which is awesome. Jason's obviously on a break at the moment until Bullet can tour again. But I believe they're writing. Dan Rayner runs a film company, so that's called Beguiled Productions. So he's out filming as much as he can in the current situation. Tim is still doing lots of stuff for Sync, and he teaches music as well. And in terms of myself, I've started another band because I just can't stop. I can't stop doing music. So basically, this isn't a plug, but I'll just throw these things in just because it'll kind of make sense of why I'm doing what I'm doing. But you've touched on This Is Menace. What I did with This Is Menace is I thought with This Is Menace, I decided I wanted to release 2 albums with 21 different singers because I just like a challenge. So I managed to get 21 different singers together and release the 2 albums, and then I suddenly thought a couple of months ago, the first record's 15 years old this year.
Wow.
And I thought, there's probably a lot of people who haven't heard it or don't even know it exists, never mind heard it. So what I'm going to be doing, probably in about 3 months' time, is I'm going to be releasing a 3rd album with This Is Menace, a super limited edition coloured vinyl, with some unreleased material on it. And that's just because, I want to, because it's fun, and I've kind of, got back into dialogue with some of the vocalists and stuff, and they're like, yeah, sure, that'd be cool. So that's kind of coming out. But on the back of conversations about doing that releasing the 3rd Menace record, I suddenly thought, well, this would be a good opportunity probably to do something heavy again. So I have got together with Adam, who is the singer from a band called Stamping Ground.
Oh, nice.
And I've pulled in Paul Fletcher, who's from Romeo Must Die, who is also in This Is Menace, and we've basically got a new band together, which is called Hangman Hill, and that we're going to release a 5-track EP in November this year. We're recording it soon with Scott, who produces Cradle of Filth, so it's going to be very heavy. Nice. And I'm very excited about that.
That's amazing.
So for me, it's kind of at the moment, I'm balancing, bringing out that Menace album, working on new stuff for Hangman Hill, and also as we're projecting forward to the Pitchshifter tour. I know it's a year away, but we've got a lot of exciting things happening around that as well.
Nice.
Releases and things going on. So
cool. Yeah, I was going to ask if there's anything future Pitchshifter release-wise.
Well, in terms of what I can't talk about it all. I hate to be one of those people,
but fine.
What I can talk about is it will be 30 years next year since we released the Industrial record.
Oh, wow.
So Peaceville have contacted me and said, you do know it's going to be 30 years next year? And I said, yeah, thanks, don't remind me, I feel old enough as it is. So I've been working in collaboration with Peaceville, and they are going to re-release a special vinyl edition of Industrial next year, which contains a set of liner notes written by me, which is talking all about the experiences of when I started the band, why I started the band, what happened, what got us to the Peel sessions and the first shows, record deals, that sort of stuff.
Yep.
It's also going to feature some unreleased sort of photos and stuff like that from my personal archives, which I've kind of kept for 3 decades. So that's one thing that's happening, and we're also, that kind of spurred me on to want to do a few more things. So what I've done is the original demo that I released only to record labels in 1990. Yeah. I've got that pressed up actually onto cassette tapes, and that is going to be super limited, which we're going to bring out in the next 6 months. We'll bring out sort of some of the first batch, and then we're going to save some back for the tour, which will be, they'll be different. There'll be only 100 of them ever released. We'll make it super rare sort of thing, just because people like that sort of stuff.
They do.
So those are the releases that I'm allowed to talk about. There will be some more, but
yeah. No, that's really cool. I mean, that my wallet's screaming already. So, especially when you mention vinyl, because I'm like I said, a DJ, but I'm an old school DJ. So I've got a set of turntables next to me right now. So, but I think I've got, I can't remember which one I've got. I think I might have Industrial on vinyl already.
Amazing. That is super rare now, because I've obviously had to look around in regards to, Peaceville asking me about the cover and, what the original looked like, etc., and what we want the new one to look like. So I've said that I want it to be exactly the same. The photo may change, but it's just very quickly, because it's a funny story.
Yeah, go for it.
Peaceville, when they first contacted me and we agreed that we would reissue, and it's all fantastic and they've been really helpful and great to work with, they kind of said, there's just one thing though. And I said, yeah, what was that? And they said, the original artwork was sent to us on like a colour photograph and some black and white photocopying, which was lost many, many years ago, probably over 20 years ago. So we've basically had to recreate the album cover through, high-res scans from, original vinyl that I've kept in my personal collection. So,
nice.
Yeah,
there you go. I think I've got Death Industrial as well on 7-inch.
Cool. That is very rare.
Yeah, I'm just thinking of what collection I have of you guys. But no, that's really good. I mean, like, I'm a sucker for vinyl, so yes, I'll be buying that, and probably the cassette tape as well, just because. So
fantastic. That's cool.
But also, like, obviously, but that's sort of happening then. If we talk about now, I want to talk about the Everything Fuck 2020.
Yes.
I really enjoyed, obviously, when you released it originally. I have the single, but you guys got some friends together with us, and I've already talked to one of them. I talked to Tony Campos of Static X recently, and I just keep to I'm name dropping a lot here. I'm really sorry.
That's okay. Well, you run a podcast, so hopefully people are talking to you.
Yeah, hopefully, yes, and listening as well. But yes. It was really cool. Like, for the list of people, and you got my boys in Soothing Akira on there. Which they're like I love those guys full out. I've been a fan of them for since I was put their way, basically, probably
great
4 or 5, 6 years ago, and I finally got to see them live last year.
Cool.
For the first time, because I've been back in the UK for about 3 years, and for some reason I hadn't really been out, and then they ended up doing this random show in Worthing. Yeah, Bar 42, I think it was. And,
that's right.
I just went down and actually went to go see them. But I've had them on my show twice. We've always got along and stuff. But it was really cool to see you've actually got those guys on there, because I know they played your Portsmouth show, didn't they?
That's right. So what happened is Jim actually mixed some of their tunes for them.
Yeah.
So I was aware of them because of that, and obviously then I checked them out and sort of, did a bit of my own personal research on them and thought, yeah, they're great. So we got them straight onto the show. And that was the first date of the show. Obviously that was our first show in 10 years.
Yes.
And I don't know if you know the story, but basically there was a power cut for the whole block.
Yep.
So all the power went out for the whole block, and we weren't sure we were actually going to be able to play the show or not. But fortunately, it came back on just in time, so we were able to do it. But they're a great bunch of guys, so there was no question that I'd invite them to be on the single. So yeah, just if quickly then, just to jump onto the 2 singles we've done. It's because even though we released on United Kingdom and Everything's Fucked in the year 2000, which is obviously a long time ago, I just sort of I started seeing, Brexit disaster happening, and I thought, you know what, we're just going to have to re-release on the United Kingdom with, and we'll get some guests on there and we'll just re-release it because it's really apt for today. And we released that on obviously the day that Boris was celebrating Brexit. That's when we released on the United Kingdom re-release. And then with Everything's Fucked, I speak to John in LA every day. And I just said to him, I don't know about you, but everything is properly fucked. And if there's going to be a time to release it, it's got to be now. And John said, I totally agree with you. Let's do it. And I said, well, wait. There's just one thing. I'd like to try and get, around 20 of our friends on it if possible. And John said, you are completely insane. I said, yes, but how many people are going to have 20 people on one single?
Yeah, it's true.
So I contacted everybody, through to, Steve and Akira, through to, old friends and acquaintances like Frank Turner, and everyone just said, what a great idea. Yes. So it was literally, great stories of people saying, people in lockdown. So some of the singers were saying, I live in an apartment with my wife and children, and it's an open plan apartment. So I'm going to have to wait for them to go to bed and wait for them to all be asleep before I start rocking out and recording my vocals. Otherwise, I'll just get disturbed and they'll be on the recording.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was great. Eventually, we kind of got around to doing it, and some people were saying, "I can't access my normal recording facilities because I can't leave the house because I'm not permitted to travel." All the things that initially happened for lockdown for everybody. So we had people recording stuff into iPhones and just whatever they had, basically. So yeah, it was fun, but we got there, and I'm really pleased with the end product, so to speak.
Yeah, no, it sounds like a massive amount of fun, to be honest. Like getting all those people involved. And you're right. I mean, it's still incredibly apt for today, and it's like, obviously John's got his perspective over in the States. I kind of got like that. I left as Trump was taking power. So I saw the sort of like, I watched the whole thing happen. So it was kind of like I could see it happening as well, which was like part of my I kept telling my wife, he's going to win. He's going to win. It was just, and it just doesn't. It just speaks to the way a lot of people are at the moment. So, like
exactly. Which I think sort of the combination of what's happening in America and the UK, and the whole world, because obviously we've always been interested in what's happening in world politics and on the world stage. But I think that initially, my idea for the tour was just to name it the Slow Motion Ruin Tour. and John said, I nearly agree with you, but I really want to call it the Slow Motion Apocalypse Tour. And I said, okay, you win. Yeah. so that's kind of where the tour name came from.
Nice.
But yeah, on a quick aside, I don't know if you've seen it. There's a fantastic little cartoon, which is basically it's a cartoon of a guy walking his dog in a park, in a forest or whatever, and a spaceship's landed, and an alien's obviously run down the gangway off of the spaceship, and he's standing in front of the spaceship talking to the guy walking his dog. And the alien's saying, we came here as soon as we could. Sorry, we got here as soon as we could. Has Trump been born yet? Which is a great cartoon.
Yes. No, it's absolute madness what's going everywhere, and the pandemic doesn't help either. It kind of it's fueled a lot. I mean, I went back to work about a month ago, and I work in a sort of like customer facing environment. Thankfully, the company I work for has enforced the fact that people have to wear masks when they come into the place.
Okay.
And sanitize and stuff, but the amount of like pushback and stuff like that a few people have gotten for it is just crazy when you're just trying to help. We're in masks all day. It's not as though we do anything, I fix people's stuff, so you get a lot of people come in, but there's a few people, they just pull down their masks, start talking to you, and you're like,
what are you doing?
What are you doing? I want to survive, It's like, it's not a joke. It's not a joke. But no, it's just like, just you see people kind of like, or you see those people kind of come out, and you're like, okay, everything is completely screwed or fucked, as it is. So, but yeah, so I mean, I'm looking forward to the tour next year. Hopefully, it will go ahead without any problems and stuff. And this sort of pandemic is kind of contained. I'm not going to say it's
I hope so too. I mean, the reason that I put it so far back, I kind of, obviously came up with the plan, arranged it all with John, and we hooked up with DHP for the tour. I think we wanted to just push it far enough back to make sure hopefully it will happen, but also, we want something to look forward to as well after all this shit. So it's like kind of, we thought if we put it then, it'd be, a good time for everyone to just, have a party, basically. It's kind of what we wanted to do. And we thought it'd be a good time for us to experiment and do a few different things. So I laid down the gauntlet and said to John, I challenge you to do an acoustic set the day after the Rock City show.
Yeah, I saw that.
and he picked up the gauntlet. So, and we're going to make that really special as well. Nice. It might sound like a crazy thing for us, but you can track down, obviously, acoustic versions of Civilized Society and lots, some of the other tracks. So we know we can make it work, and we're going to work hard to make sure that's a good show.
Yeah,
so,
I saw that. I was like looking at it because I bought tickets for the Nottingham show. But combining that with like a hotel and stuff, I really wanted it, but I can't because there's a couple of us going. So
sure, okay.
But it sounds real. I mean, if you're going to record it or whatever, I think
we will. Yeah, of course.
It's going to be absolutely. It's just going to be funny and amazing because I always love to hear songs that you wouldn't normally know, like would translate acoustically. But trying to figure out in my head, I look forward to hearing it on that.
Good.
But yeah, no, you've got Raging Speedhorn on the show. As well, or a couple of the shows. So have you got any other tour supports lined up, or is that still kind of...
That's all still going at the moment. So I was going to say, because obviously coming back to what you were talking about earlier, 1 minute silence and bands back in the day, as we would say, something that we learned from, very early on was when we were playing with, initially on Peaceville, they weren't sure what to do with us, so they just put us on with everybody. So, I mean, we ended up playing with Napalm Death and... Carcass and Paradise Lost and everybody, basically. But it's something we learned back in that day was, camaraderie and looking out for everyone and being part of a scene, even if it's not your scene, making it a wider scene and whatever it might be. And we learned that and we stuck with that all the way through. And that still sticks with us now. So it's like kind of... What we will be doing, of course, and what we are doing right now is we're looking at, up-and-coming UK bands. Of course, we want to get people out with us and we want to support them because it's as much about other bands as it is about us too. Yeah. So I am currently, looking through support bands, calling managers, speaking to bands, etc. Funnily enough, some bands are saying to me it's too early; they don't want to commit.
Okay.
But we kind of, Speedhorn. We've known the Speedhorn for years, and they were like, absolutely, we're in.
Yeah, they are
full stop.
I think they were tall whores. I think the word is.
Yeah, definitely.
And I know back in the day they were on everything, if I remember
exactly.
rightly.
And I know some of the Speedhorn guys came to see us at our last Nottingham show, and I think they were just like, "Fuck yeah, we want to do it." So that was it's good fun. So yeah, hopefully in the next couple of months there will start to be more announcements about the other support bands. So I am working on it at the moment.
Cool.
There's a as you know, doing a podcast, there's just so much music to listen to right now, and I want to make sure I don't miss anyone. So I'm kind of literally challenging myself to try and listen to at least 50 bands a week in terms of like figuring out who to take out with us.
Yeah, that's really cool. I'm going to drop Seething Akira's name just purely because I like them.
Of course.
But you probably already got them in your mind.
They've already been on the phone, don't worry.
Yes, I'm sure they have. But no, that'd be really cool. I'm really looking forward to it because I really like Raging Speedhorn as well. I was a big fan of them back in the day. So,
great. Yes,
it's just it was like because we decided to go to the Nottingham show because Earth Toe 9 are like one of my favourite bands of kind of ever.
Great.
And Blueprint as well, obviously the offshoot of that. I was obviously a fan of you. You were in the Blueprint, so I was a fan of yours there as well.
That's right.
But you weren't in that show. What was up with that?
No, so what happened with the Blueprint was Matt Grundy was a live guitarist with us in Pitchshifter for a while. And we were sitting in a car park one day and on whatever tour it was, and I kind of said to Matt, it would be great to do something that sounds like this, in this style, in this vein. And Matt said, I'd love to do that. And I said, well, when we get back, why don't we start a new band then? So that's kind of where the Blueprint came from. We then wrote some songs. We then went in to record with Andy Sneap, and we did 2 EPs. which I'm really proud of. You know, it was great, you know, to be part of it. And then life kind of took me in a different direction, and I'd moved to Brighton for a while, and it was just too difficult to kind of keep doing you know, there comes a time when you can't do everything, sadly. Yes. So I kind of said to the Blueprint guys, look, I'll step down, but, you know, for all means, you know, by all means, keep going. And, you know, I wish you all the best, but I just can't. I'm not going to be able to make that trip to keep rehearsing and playing live and et cetera, et cetera. So, yeah.
Oh, fair enough. That's fair enough.
So.
No, it's because I did ask Jim why he wasn't involved in the .com thing, but he just sort of like said because you guys already had a tight unit with the Rainers and yourselves.
Yeah, that's right. You know, so it's just it was just kind of the last. You know, the last formation, or whatever you want to call it, the last team that we took out on the road that 10 years before would have, you know, just felt like the right sort of incarnation of the band to take out for the .com one. That doesn't mean to say that, you know, Jim might not get up and play with us again one day. So yeah,
that would be
it's all cool. Yeah, and like I said, you know, we're all still very good friends. It was great fun to play on Jim's new record. Really enjoyed that. So, you know, so that's cool.
No, it was a good record. I really enjoyed it, and I'm still enjoying it now actually. So it's all good. So I've got a couple of questions left for you. That's all right.
Sure.
I've kind of gone over
of course.
a bit on the thing.
No worries at all.
Cool. So what I want to find out from you is these are sort of like centric to you. So these are what are your 3 sort of most influential albums? The ones that kind of made you want to pick up the guitar or make music. The sort of like when you heard a certain album and it sort of inspired you to do something. Which ones were they?
If I literally rewind all the way back to 1989, which is kind of when the end of 1989, which is when we started getting ideas together for Pitchshifter. Let me think what records blew my mind. I think certainly Killing Joke, the first album, was completely different to anything I'd heard before. There was a band called Slab, SLAB, with an exclamation mark at the end of it, who sadly didn't get anywhere and didn't get known. And they did a record called Ascension, which I would recommend for anyone to check out. And when you look at the year that was released, it'll just be mind blowing as to how could they have done this 35 years ago? Because it's literally. They're playing around with beats and heavy guitars and stuff before it was even an idea in people's minds. So it's a great record. And then probably would have been, there's just so many records. I'll probably just have to say a few band names if that's okay.
No, go for it.
Monolith by Amebix would be another one. And the first Head of David record, as well, was one that we just kept playing over and over again. But we were discovering lots and lots of new music because we would just sit down and listen to John Peel as much as we could, and we'd sit there and we'd make a note of all the bands he was playing. We'd then try and get hold of their stuff. So, of course, at that point, he was playing everybody: Extreme Noise Terror, Carcass, Napalm Death, you know, all the heavy stuff he was coming out with. So we were just sort of getting into more and more music as we went along. And then, obviously, amazingly, we ended up supporting loads of those bands who still remember us, which just blows my mind all the time. For example, we played with Gorilla Biscuits. That would have been 30 years ago. I had a message via someone saying Walter says hello, because obviously he went on to do Quicksand and he's still doing his own stuff. And Neurosis, all those guys. It's just been amazing.
Nice. Excellent.
So sorry, I've gone off on a sideways there, but they'd be the main records and sort of bands that influenced us.
Cool. I'm definitely going to check those out. I haven't heard that Slab album, so I'm gonna go definitely check that out.
That's cool. Well, I'll throw in one more then. A record that we played a lot was it's a German band called Eisenwarte, which is a German band, and Eisenwarte in English translates as Iron Father, and it's like they're a pre-Napalm Death, which sounds crazy thing to say, but it's really heavy, down-tuned, amazing music.
Nice.
So, yeah.
Cool. I'm gonna check that out. Oh, fantastic.
Cool.
So, Mark, what are your hobbies away from music? So, I know you said you like to sort of keep doing music. Do you do anything else away from it?
What I do away from music, the thing I've been doing recently, which is away from music, but it is music, is I've started up a charity project called Last Night a DJ Saved My Life, Bristol, which is where I'm based at the moment. So I've been crowdfunding to raise money to buy small portable hand-wound radios. So basically they don't need battery power. They can charge from the mains or take batteries, but they solar charge and they wind by crank, so they have a small crank handle on the side. And basically a lot of people in the music industry came to sort of donate to it. So 2000 Trees Festival, Arctangent Festival, lots of musicians have sort of like supported it, and I've managed to raise enough money for between 150 to 200 radios so far. So I'm going to be ordering and getting those radios and delivering them to charities across Bristol in August. So that's going to take up quite a bit of time. And other things I do, I can't stop helping other bands. So, you know, there's a lot of, if there's local or national bands who kind of say, hey, what did you do when you were at this stage because we're frustrated, we're tearing our hair out, we can't seem to get further than here, or what do we need to do next to make this happen, or whatever it might be. So a lot of sort of mentoring and helping bands out. I like to do that. I also like to keep fit, which I guess we all have to do now, we're so old. And that's kind of it. So yeah, but still lots of music, obviously. Like I said, I'm trying to hear as much new music all the time as possible. So I literally will consume music like you wouldn't believe.
That's amazing. No, that's basically how I spent lockdown. Between sort of looking after the kids and stuff, it was just sort of like, it gave me a great opportunity to actually listen to everything that I was getting in. Because there's always that point where you get loads of stuff and you get sort of so much of a backlog, you kind of cut off after a date, and then, well, that's what I do. But now I've discovered so many bands during this like pandemic period, and it's been absolutely amazing.
Yeah, that's great. Because I think the thing, I know there's been a lot of worry because obviously live music's taken a really big hit, and it's a lot of people's incomes, and it's great that people are sort of rallying together to try and do as much as they can to support not just the people on stage, but it's the people behind the stage and around the stage and in front of the stage that need the support too. Yeah, definitely. So, you know, that is really important. But I think, you know, without sounding hopefully not too wishy-washy, it's kind of, if music's got people through a lot of shit.
Yes.
And that's a lot of personal shit, a lot of political shit, and a lot of societal change shit. So it's not going anywhere. So there's obviously been a lot of worry of, you know, a lot of bands might split up because they can't afford to keep going, and et cetera, et cetera. But I think music will just keep going. It just does. Yeah, it will just keep on keeping on. It always finds a way. Exactly. Exactly. Yeah, people always want to make it. People always want to hear it.
Exactly. And people find different ways of trying to get it out there and everything. So, or even perform and stuff like that. So, yeah, no, music will persevere, as they say. So, yeah, cool. Have you got a link for your charity, by the way? Is it people still able to donate?
If people want to, look to go onto Crowdfunder, it's just last night at DJ Save My Life Bristol. It's on Crowdfunder.
Nice. Okay, cool. Right.
So yeah, please do have a look if you got a chance. Even, you know, if anything makes a difference, it'd be great. Yeah, no, I really like, because I read about that actually, and I was thought that's amazing. Like giving people radios, because it's such a way of like, it's a one-way communication tools, but it kind of like it's company. Well, exactly, and I mean, I won't go on about it too much because I don't, you know, it is what it is, and people can see on sort of, you know, on the Crowdfunder page. But it's, you know, it's mainly for people who are homeless and people who are elderly and completely on their own, because right now they've got no idea what's going on. You know, it's like kind of they're not seeing people as they normally see them. They're even more isolated, and having a radio, DJ music's always great, but also having a radio for news updates, because, you know, I'm probably not the only person to think that, is it me, or does the government change their mind every fucking 5 minutes? You know, it's like kind of people really need to be, you know, be told what's happening. Otherwise they're just going to get lost and left behind. No, it's exactly that. And they are changing their mind no one wants to admit no one knows what they're doing. Yes. Fine. And I don't think there'll be any shame in saying we don't know what we're doing, as in we're learning as things are going on. But because they're kind of throwing everything at it, and like, you know, I could go on for hours. But yes, no, I agree. But no, that's a fantastic idea on the charity side of things. I'm going to check that. I'll put it all in the notes for people to look at, the show notes and stuff. So great, thank you very much. That link and donate if they can. Yes. But yeah, that's all I've got, man. Thank you for your time. You're more than welcome. Thank you for asking me on as a guest. Oh, no problem at all. I really appreciate it. I hope everything's all right with you, family, and everything, all good, and great. Yeah, life in Bristol and whatnot is good. Yes. Thank you very much again for your time, man. I really do appreciate it. I'm looking forward to next year.
with the tour and everything.
Yes.
And seeing you guys live again.
Yeah, let's hope we're all still alive, and anyone who's listening, if you're still alive, come along. It'd be fun.
Yeah, I'll tell people to buy tickets now, so at least you know how many people should be there.
Brilliant.
Cool, man. Well, you have a fantastic rest of your evening, all right?
Yeah, thank you very much. Take care.
You too. Bye-bye.
Cheers. Bye.